I mean, I would do this in a heartbeat. Playing alongside Tatum and Brown? How many fingers you got for rings? YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Today we got another reaction video. We're reacting to a video that was sent to me. It's titled The Celtics Trade No One Is Talking About, and it could change the NBA. This one was sent to me on Twitter. If you guys do want to send a video to me, or if you find a video you think it's worth getting my reaction on, make sure to hit me up on Twitter at FGuyBoston. I'd be happy to consider it for a future video. And this one, I don't know, the title got me. The Celtics Trade No One Is Talking About, and it could change the NBA. So I figured let's give this one a shot. It's coming from the account Wood Hoops. I'll make sure to drop that link in the description as well, because you guys know if I'm making content off of someone else's content, I'm always going to give, the credit where it's due. Before we get into that, make sure to hit that subscribe button and like this video. Then comment down below what you think of this. And since we're talking about trades, drop some realistic trades in the comments as well. We have an upcoming video coming out that I'm going to be reacting to some trade ideas and talking about my own trade ideas, and I'd love to include some comments from you guys as well in that video. All right, so let's get into this. The Celtics trade no one is talking about. I think that's what got me. The one that
Despite the 2021 NBA offseason being full of exciting moves, it seems as though the Boston Celtics had another quiet offseason despite many people wanting this team to make a big trade.
Maybe the Celtics haven't made like the biggest splash, and I feel like you guys hate me. I paused this 8 seconds into the video, but maybe the Celtics haven't made a big splash or anything, but it's been far from a quiet offseason, right? You start it by getting rid of your GM, getting rid of your coach, making your coach your GM, getting a new coach, trading, one of the best players on your team, technically on paper, Kemba Walker, getting, a bunch of new faces in here, Josh Richardson, Dennis Schroeder. I don't know if I would say quiet. Maybe not earth-shattering, but I wouldn't say quiet. Now can I actually play some of this video and shut my big mouth?
Sure, this team was able to bring in solid players like Dennis Schroeder, Josh Richardson, and Chris Dunn, but realistically, this doesn't bring the Celtics any closer to an NBA championship than they already are. But what if I told you that this team could make a big move and make themselves contenders in the East? Today we have to talk Boston Celtics, and in particular, taking a look at 3 trades that could get this team the star power they need in order to take a leap and become contenders. Or at the very least, a team at the top of their conference for years to come with the new big 3 that could shock the NBA. Because like I said, this team had a far from perfect postseason last year.
Ain't that the truth? What's on the screen right now, a far from perfect postseason. Yeah, I think we can all agree with that.
And the offseason this summer as well was not great. After the playoffs last year, many believed that this Celtics team would be looking to shake up their roster significantly because it just didn't lead to wins. It was very apparent that Kemba Walker just wasn't the guy needed at the guard, and this team just didn't have a good roster built around their duo Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. But despite all this chatter, the team didn't really make any huge moves. Sure, they got off Kemba Walker's overpaid contract, but they also had to take on Al Horford, who to say the least is getting up there in age. After all the small moves by the Celtics, I just couldn't help but think, what's next for this team? I mean, the Celtics are in a somewhat strange position because on one hand, they have Tatum and Brown that are capable of winning at the highest level if they have a good roster around them.
Hey, I like that. There's still people in the NBA world that don't believe Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown can be a 1-2 on a championship caliber team. I'm glad to see not only Boston Celtics fans think that they can.
And on the other side of things, this team has guys like Robert Williams and Peyton Pritchard who just aren't there yet and need time to develop. It's almost as though this team has 2 separate timelines on their roster at the moment, which makes it difficult to know what their plan should be for the future. But in my eyes, the best decision for the Celtics is simple: get an elite player on the timeline of Brown and Tatum that can help this team win now. And more importantly, give the Celtics duo a winning environment and keep them content with the team. Making a move like this would make the team competitive and take the pressure off the young guys the team wants to develop to help their
He did say, like, a winning team, winning environment. Let's not act like last year was the norm for the Celtics. You know what I mean? Like, they had a winning environment for their entire careers up to that. They were a couple of one game away from getting to the NBA Finals the year prior. They've had a lot of winning so far. Like, when Kyrie and Hayward were out and they kind of carried the team to the Eastern Conference Finals against LeBron and Jason Tatum banged on his head top. Like, I wouldn't agree necessarily that winning environment hasn't been part of their, NBA upbringing yet, right?
their team win now. But the question is, who could the Celtics realistically get to be their third star? Despite the belief that young players with star potential come at a very high price, due to there being a lack of free agents, teams with these players will be more open to trades if it gets them what they need, which means that the Celtics could likely cash in on a deal, but it would cost them something. Now I know, I said the ideal goal for this team is to get a third star without giving up their young talent, but for many teams, this is exactly what they're looking for in the case of a trade. Don't get me wrong here, I'm not saying the Celtics should give up everything to win now, but they have a lot of players like Grant Williams, Romeo Langford, Peyton Pritchard, Robert Williams, and even more that if included in a deal could make a trade possible for a star. But which young player should the Celtics keep on their team at all costs? Well, like I said, the list of raw young players with potential goes on and on for this team, but I believe this team needs to keep 3 of these guys for their future because in a couple years, they could be studs to say the least.
3 guys that they need to keep. Robert Williams, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. Am I missing something here? Right? That's why I'm assuming?
In my eyes, the 3 players that the Celtics should not include in any of these
Hold on. No. We are not serious with this, Grant. I'm already 3 minutes in, so we're watching the whole video, but oh my God, no. Oh man, I don't know if I can go through another 5+ minutes listening to someone that's pumping Grant Williams up that much. Oh, you guys know how I feel about him. Oh, no. All right, let's see. Let's give it a chance. I'm assuming based on these 3, he was excluding Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Maybe he said that and I missed it, but oh no. Robert Williams, Aaron Nesmith, I can get down with that, but oh no, Grant.
Trades consist of Robert Williams, Grant Williams, and Aaron Nesmith because they all have tremendous upside for the Celtics in the future. Now, I know what you're thinking. What about Peyton Pritchard and Romeo Langford? Well, what this comes down to is simply the roster of this team because, well, the Celtics are stacked at the guard position with guys like Dennis Schroeder, Marcus Smart, Chris Dunn, and more. This means guys like Pritchard and Langford likely won't get a bigger role for this team and are wasting their potential, but there may be other teams who want to take advantage of it and make a trade for these young guys. One of those teams being the Raptors with their stud forward Pascal Siakam. At the moment, the Raptors are in a strange spot with their roster just like the Celtics. On one hand, they have guys like Siakam and Van Vliet that can help them win now, but they also have a ton of young players including the 4th pick in this year's draft, Scotty Barnes, that have tremendous potential to be stars in the future. Unlike the Celtics trading for a star to win now, there's a decent chance the Raptors trade for young assets and go full rebuild mode. And these teams can give each other exactly what they need in order to win now and rebuild. The trade package for Siakam would be pretty straightforward. The Celtics would trade away Peyton Pritchard, Josh Richardson, Marcus Smart, and draft capital if needed.
I honestly don't know if the Raptors do what we're looking at on the screen right now. You would have to be selling Siakam at that point. And I know he didn't have the best year last year, right? Like he was better a couple years ago. But Marcus Smart, Pritchard, and Josh Richardson, I love those guys. Siakam still has that, sort of, hey, he could be in your top 3 type player when all 3 of those guys combined really don't add up to that for me. I don't know.
Needed for Pascal Siakam. Now I know, this is a pretty hefty package for one player, but keep in mind that Siakam has superstar potential, and the stats don't lie. Despite having a somewhat down season last year, in previous seasons, Siakam averaged 23 points, 7 rebounds, and 3.5 assists on pretty good shooting splits as well, and that to me sounds like a star that this team needs. Siakam would literally give the Celtics everything they need from a third star on their team. He can score the ball from anywhere on the court.
How old is Siakam? That's what I'm kind of forgetting right now. 27. Yeah, he's older than you think, too, because he kind of came on late.
And can stretch the floor with his 35+% three-point shooting. Siakam also provides very good, if not elite, defense that would help this team a lot, especially in the playoffs. At 6'9", Siakam has the size to match up against elite competition in the East, like Kevin Durant and more, which is one of...
He'd be able to run the court so well with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. That I will give him. I just don't know. I don't know if in the flow of a half-court offense, if those 3 are perfect matches.
The bigger weaknesses for this team in previous years. All in all, this will get the Celtics what they need, and they make this move if they believe in Dennis Schroeder as their starting point guard because they'd be shipping off Richardson and Smart. For the Raptors, after losing Lowry, they will need to get more depth at the guard position to better their roster. Smart and Richardson would be great options for this team to help win now, or the Raptors could flip them for even more assets and draft capital. This would also give them Peyton Pritchard, who they could develop alongside Scotty Barnes for the future, and draft capital that could be very valuable in the instance that the Celtics' new trio doesn't work out for some reason, or they just face injuries. All in all, this is a very even trade for both sides, and they both get what they need. But what are the odds that Pascal Siakam even gets traded? Well, it was recently reported by Siakam's agent that he, quote, isn't thinking about a trade right now, which to many makes a trade seem unlikely, but I think this is far from the case.
I don't think that the Raptors would trade Siakam this season because he had such a slide or down year last year compared to what he had done in years prior. Like, this is the year where they're going to try and beef up his trade stock again. They're not going to go and give him a half a season and then trade him for peanuts.
What I mean by that is the Siakam trade rumors were never about him wanting out. It was about the Raptors wanting to fully rebuild or try and stay competitive with Siakam. So if this team does want to try and tank and get lottery picks for the next few years, there's a solid chance they ship off Siakam for young assets. But in the case they don't and Siakam stays, there are still a few other trades this team could make. Despite Siakam being the best player talent-wise this team could realistically acquire, there are still a lot of other great options this team could trade for in the case they want to get a third star. And the next player on my list is Malcolm Brogdon of the Pacers. At first glance, you might be thinking, Brogdon would be the third star this team needs? Don't let the media fool you, because Brogdon is literally one of the most underrated players in the league, which means the Celtics could likely get him for a good deal. Last season for the Pacers, Brogdon averaged 22 points, 6 assists, and 5 boards a game on nearly 50-40-90 shooting splits, which is insane to say the least.
I made a video of Brogdon a while back and pretty much said that I love the player and I wouldn't like to pay the premium price for him and whatnot. I'm curious to see what his rationale behind, oh, you can get him at a discount is outside of him being underrated. Like, I think you'd have to give up a lot to get Brogdon.
Age 28, Brogdon is a bit older than Tatum and Brown, but being that he is just entering the middle of his prime, he could help out this team in a big way for the next 4 to 5 years at least. And to say the fit is great is an understatement. Many believe the Celtics need to get an elite guard to take the scoring and playmaking pressure off of Tatum and Brown, and Brogdon would do just that. On the Pacers, Brogdon...
I do love this guy, Brogdon, but I have a feeling, I don't know the fandom of Woods Hoops here that made this video. I have a feeling he's a huge Brogdon guy, just the way he's talking about him. Like, elite superstar. Like, I get it. I really like Brogdon. I like the player, but elite superstar is strong.
Has shown that he can play alongside other stars like Sabonis and still score the ball and playmake at a very high level, which means that he would be almost a perfect fit on any team. In this trade, the Celtics would ship off Marcus Smart, Romeo Langford, and draft capital if needed in exchange for Brogdon. Despite having a ton of talent, the Pacers clearly...
That's at least, I think, a way more doable trade than we looked at with the Toronto one. Like, and maybe I'm hyping up Siakam too much. I just think that the Raptors would be looking for a little bit more in return, whereas this seems like a totally fair trade for both sides.
Really need to switch things up, and getting someone like Marcus Smart could be very good for this team. If you didn't know, the Pacers recently acquired young guard Caris LeVert last year, and to say he has the potential to be great is an understatement. LeVert has shown flashes of being great, but he plays best when he has the ball in his hands, which is where having someone like Brogdon becomes an issue. With this trade, the Pacers would get Smart, who would play at the shooting guard and allow LeVert to take over at PG. Not to mention getting young talent in Romeo Langford and draft capital for the future, which makes this deal well worth it for them. Overall, this is a great trade for the C's, because even though Brogdon doesn't have potential like Siakam, he's shown that he can be a consistent piece and would definitely fit the third star mold that this team needs. Yeah, I mean, the Siakam and Brogdon trades are the best ones for the Celtics to make in my eyes because they get star power without risking their future. But just to get you guys talking in the comments, here's a potential trade the Celtics can make to get a true star on the timeline of Tatum and Brown. And I don't think I'm going to say who it is. Let's just take a look at the trade package instead. In this trade, the Celtics give away Al Horford, Peyton Pritchard, Grant Williams, and Marcus Smart along with draft capital for De'Aaron Fox and Rashawn Holmes.
Wow, wait a second. I mean, I would do this in a heartbeat. De'Aaron Fox alone, I'd do this in a heartbeat for. The Kings aren't taking Al Horford, Marcus Smart, Pritchard, and our buddy. I mean, I would do this in a heartbeat. De'Aaron Fox playing alongside Tatum and Brown? How many fingers you got for rings? If you could work that out.
This trade would be going all in and would complete the Celtics starting lineup for the future. Fox at age 23 running the guard, Jaylen Brown at age 24, Jason Tatum at age 23, Josh Richardson age 27.
I get it. Not going to happen. I get it. But this trade just getting me thinking about that makes this a great video for me. Like, it is sort of a trade that, I mean, the title's not clickbait. No one's talking about this trade, and it would change the NBA. Maybe after the ... in the title, you could put in parentheses, would never happen. But man, if the Celtics should land De'Aaron Fox, whew.
And Richaun Holmes at age 27 as well. Now, am I saying the Celtics should make this trade? At the moment, no. But hey, sometimes we just have to have some fun on the channel. But what I will say is I think it would be very interesting to watch this young lineup for the next 4 years if this trade were to go down. But let me know down below what you think about Fox on the Celtics. Regardless of whether or not this team goes all in for someone like Fox, makes a safer trade for the two guys I mentioned, or just trusts the process and builds their young core, they are in a very solid position for the future. But I believe that Tatum and Brown are ready to win now, and being mediocre because you're scared to make a trade won't help this team in their win now efforts, and not for the future either. Let me know down below if you enjoyed the Celtics content, and if this video gets a good amount of love, I'll start getting more Celtics videos in the lineup.
Hey man, De'Aaron Fox to the Celtics? Are you kidding? I would love that. I don't know if the Raptors would do the Siakam trade that we saw my man talk about here. I don't know if as the Celtics, I would necessarily do the Pacers trade, just because it's like, I don't know how much of an upgrade you're getting by getting Brogdon. And again, I talked about this all in my Malcolm Brogdon video. I really, really like the player. I don't know if he would be worth Marcus Smart and one of your young guys, but I probably would do the trade. Like, I do like Brogdon. I do think that he'd be a better point guard fit than, say, Marcus Smart here. So I probably would do it. I'm not jumping over and jumping through hoops and whatnot to do it. But man, talk about firing me up, getting me out of my seat. Picturing De'Aaron Fox playing with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, and all they have to give up would be Al Horford, Marcus Smart, Peyton Pritchard, and Grant, Mr. Womp Womp. Man, I don't know. I'm doing that one in a heartbeat. I don't think that the Kings would do that. And I'm just like leaving out the fact that Richaun Holmes was also in the deal, right? Like, I'm only thinking De'Aaron Fox here. So yeah, I mean, no one's talking about that trade. It would 100% change the NBA. Like, I'm picturing De'Aaron Fox, one of the fastest guys in the league, running the floor with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. It would 100% change the NBA. I just don't know if that's like even that realistic. But he did say sort of, hey, just to get the comments going, how about this trade? So he wasn't saying it was realistic. But man, I would be so in on that trade, 100%. If you guys like that video, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and then comment down below what you think. I didn't see it coming. If I'm being completely honest, I saw De'Aaron Fox's name coming 0%. Like, I did not see that trade coming. And I don't know, kind of fired me up, got me thinking a little bit. But yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next video.